Hey everyone, it's Kelsey here and welcome back to my channel. Or welcome if you're new. So in today's video, I'm basically going to be doing a Q&A of questions that I get asked commonly about doing hair as a mobile hairstylist, just because recently in my comments and also on my Instagram I've been getting a lot of people asking me like random different questions pertaining to that, whether they're looking for advice for starting their own business or just out of curiosity. I've just been getting asked a lot of questions, so I just summed up all those questions into about 4 or 5 questions and I have them all written down right here. So I'm just going to go through that with you guys in this video, just in case anybody comes across here looking for that same type of advice or, you know, just curious about the topic. So I'm going to be answering those questions for you guys today. And when I say traveling hairstylists, I mean I go to people's houses and do their hair, like in their kitchens or in their living room. I just go to people's houses for their convenience. I don't mean like I go to different movie sets and things like that. Like I don't have that glamorous lifestyle yet. We're not there yet. So right now I'm just talking about going to people's houses. So the first question that I get asked about being a traveling hairstylist, and I get asked this question a lot, is whether or not I charge for traveling. And my simple answer is absolutely. Definitely, yes. Of course I charge for traveling. You definitely have to charge for traveling because that's gas, that's time, that's labor. Technically, you don't only want to make money for the actual service that you're doing and not get paid for the time that you're spending traveling to that person's home. And along with that question, I get asked how I charge for traveling. So there's different ways to charge as a traveling hairstylist or with any traveling service really. So me personally, I have a flat fee that I charge anybody who is within a 30-minute drive, and anything that goes beyond that I charge according to the distance. I know some traveling stylists just charge according to the distance right from the start. Some people have a flat fee no matter where they go, but they limit where they go to. It's different how you can do it, but there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever you feel makes your time worthwhile when you're driving somewhere or traveling somewhere. Also related to that question, I've gotten asked if I charge the exact amount that I spend in gas when I charge for traveling. So basically asking if, say I spend $10 in gas to get to your house, if I'm going to charge you $10 for that. And my short answer is no. And I don't suggest anybody ever being that specific when it comes to traveling fees for a couple different reasons. But the first one is honestly, that is way too much math. Because that means you need to calculate how many miles per gallon your car takes, and then you want to add in the cost of gas at the moment and then be like, okay, so if my car gets this far with this amount of gas, that means that you should pay whatever. Like I can't even think of any examples because I'm just not a math person. It's just way too specific. And the other reason that I don't recommend that is because there are just too many fluctuating factors. First of all, gas prices go up and down. So if I were to be that specific with my prices, I could tell somebody, oh, today it's going to cost you $6.49 for me to get to your house. And then next week it's going to be like $8.52 because gas went up. Like, I can't be doing that every single time I go to somebody's house. You know what I'm saying? That's just way too much work. Also, let's say I'm driving somewhere and I get stuck in traffic and now I'm sitting on the road for an extra 20 minutes and I'm burning gas the entire time that I'm sitting in traffic. What am I going to do? Tell my client I got stuck in traffic so they need to cover that extra gas? Like, you can't do that. And then also, what if I just get a new car one day and now my gas is different because it takes a different amount of gas per gallon? I mean, a different amount of miles per gallon, or whatever you call that. What if I just get a different car? It's just too many things that change. It's just way too specific. I don't ever recommend doing that. And not only that, but when you are charging for traveling, you shouldn't only charge for the gas. It's also wear and tear on your car and time. When you are driving to different locations as a service, your vehicle becomes one of your work tools, and your tools need to be maintained. So getting your car maintained and repaired and things like that, that becomes a business expense. Me personally, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every single time my car needs service, I want to make sure that my services are paying for that or my clients are paying for that. That's not what I'm saying, because I don't only use my car for work, you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is because of how often I'm driving, a lot of the service that my car needs is because of how many times I'm going to these different locations. Because sometimes I'll be going somewhere that's 20 minutes away. The next day I can be traveling an hour away. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm always driving all over the place. So my car needs a lot of work. So when you're traveling for services, you want to when you're charging for traveling, you want to make sure that you are making enough so that you can put it aside and take care of your car as well. You know, like, does that make sense? I feel like I'm not explaining it really well, but long story short, traveling is more than just gas. You also need to keep your car maintained. And not only that, but when you're traveling, you're also spending time. And when I say that, I'm actually going to get to that in my next question. So let's move on. So the next question that I get asked a lot is how far I'm willing to travel to do hair. Me personally, I don't have a limit as long as all of my traveling expenses are covered. My farthest regular client lives about 45 to 50 minutes away from me depending on the traffic, and I go to her like every 2 to 3 weeks. But the farthest that I've ever gone to do hair was actually to Mexico, because one of my clients got married down there and he wanted me to do his hair as well as the bride and all of their bridesmaids. So like I said, I'm willing to go just about anywhere as long as I don't have to pay any extra fees. So that means that my traveling fees are covered. If I have to go through any tolls, that's covered. If I have to go anywhere far enough to stay in a hotel, my hotel must be paid for, because honestly, there's no point in staying overnight somewhere and then using all the money that I just made. So it sounds harsh, but the client should pay for that if that's ever necessary. But it's very rare that I'm asked to travel more than like an hour away. And because it's so rare, I really don't mind traveling far if I have to. But if I ever do get to the point where I'm being asked to travel far distances on a regular basis, I will start limiting myself, just because, to be completely honest with you, you do end up losing more in the long run when you travel. So this goes back to what I was saying, where I say that traveling also costs you time. So just to give you a basic example, let's say, I'm just going to throw a random number in here. Let's say you have an appointment that is 3 hours away. And let's say that is short enough for you to do that service and come home in the same day. So that's 3 hours of traveling there, 3 hours of coming back, and then whatever you spent doing the actual service. So 6 hours in one day you've spent just driving alone or traveling, however you're getting to where you're going. In those 6 hours, how many appointments could you have taken? Probably a decent amount, right? Depending on the service that you're doing. I can't charge my client for whatever money I lost by not taking those services. Like, I can't make them pay that in traveling fees. That's just greedy, and that's not fair to the client. It's one thing to have them cover your traveling expenses, but usually it doesn't add up to what I would have made had I just stayed home and taken local clients. So that's something that you would really want to factor in if you want to start doing a traveling service, and that is why most stylists do limit how far they would go. Like I said, it's very rare that I'm asked to go more than an hour away, so the few times that does happen, I don't mind it, but it's not something that I want to get into on a regular basis. Even using Mexico as an example. Obviously, I'm not complaining that I went to Mexico. I got to go to Mexico, okay? But I was there to do a wedding, which obviously was only for one day. And when I was there, I had to be down there for 3 days. And then coming home, my flight was in the middle of the day. So that's technically 4 days that I spent, including the day that I came home. So that's 1 day that I worked and 3 days that I didn't work. Even though I got to be in fabulous Mexico, again, I'm not complaining, that was 3 days I had to give up that I could have worked and taken even more clients. So truthfully, it wasn't really worth it. Even though I didn't have to pay for the traveling down there, I still lost work, technically, you know what I mean? So that's a big thing that you want to factor when you decide if you want to be a traveling hairstylist or not, and also when you want to decide how far you're willing to go. And also, I feel like weddings are an exception though. Like, I'm willing to give up time for a wedding, but like, to just do like regular services, you really want to consider, is this really worth it? You know what I'm saying? Just to consider that. I forgot to mention that when you're coming up with your traveling fees, you don't want to just throw random numbers in your clients' faces. It's good to either have an hourly rate or a mileage rate, so this way you're making sure that you're being properly compensated for all the time that you are spending traveling. And this is mostly pertaining to clients who are far from you. If you're only going to be working on local clients that are within a certain radius, then it's okay to just add on a few extra dollars. Me personally, my local rate is very small. I don't really start charging specifically until, like I said, we're passing a half hour of driving. So if you're going to be taking clients that are far from you, you definitely want to make sure that you're being properly compensated. All of that time you are technically working, so you don't only want to cover your gas, because all that gas money goes right back into your car, but what goes into your pocket? You know what I mean? You are technically working from the second you pull out of your driveway to the second that you get back home. If you are charging for gas alone, you are technically working for free. Don't do that to yourself. Know your worth. Alright, so now we're off for the whole pricing thing. So the next question that I get asked is, have I ever been into a situation where I've driven all the way somewhere and then I didn't end up getting paid for it, or my client didn't show up, or basically if I ever got gypped, like after traveling somewhere. Way before, when I first started doing this and I really didn't know what I was doing, it has happened a couple times, and it was the same client too, and I should have dropped him a long time ago, where he would make an appointment with me, and I always tell my clients when I'm on my way, like when I leave their house, leave my house, even though we already have a set time for their appointment, I always say I'm on my way, I'll be there in 30 minutes or whatever, and I'll be like halfway to his house, and he'll text me and be like, oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you I'm not going to be home today, can we reschedule? And I already drove there, you know what I mean? Or I would get there and nobody's home, and it was the same person. So way back when, that was a situation, but as I've gotten more into this, I've noticed the importance of taking a deposit in advance, and usually when you have people's money in advance, they take you more seriously. So if they're the type of person to flake out on you, they wouldn't even give you a deposit, or they'll give you a hard time about it, and that'll be a red flag right there. And if they do give you the deposit, then if you happen to go to their house and they're not there, at least you got your gas covered. So although your time was wasted, you still got something in your pocket. But I've never been in a situation where I've gone to someone and I've actually done the service and they're like, oh, by the way, I'm not paying you for this. Luckily, that never happened to me, and I'm praying that never happens. But yeah, to anyone looking to do this, I always recommend taking a deposit. Don't ever do a traveling service without making sure you have something in your pocket in advance, just in case, because this is the real world, and in the real world, you can't just go along trusting people. So secure yourself, secure your bag, secure your pocket. This next question is a question that's just like asked personally for me, and it's what inspired me to start doing here as a traveling service. Honestly, I never planned to do it. It kind of just happened. Like the whole working out of my house thing and working for myself, I always planned on having my own business in the future, but doing it the way I do now, it just happened. I can go into a whole long story about that, and maybe I'll just do that as a story time video or something, because it's a long story kind of. But long story short, it just kind of happened. It started with me working on coworkers and friends out of my house, because it was taking so long for me to get my papers from my school so I could take my state board test and get my license. And I was so excited to work, so I just worked out of my kitchen. And then people told people who told people, and it just kind of built from there, and I ended up making it a more serious thing, and now it's a business. So yeah, it really just kind of happens. But yeah, the reason that I made as many mistakes as I did in the beginning of this all is because I never really had a plan for working for myself the way that I do. But I found a way to get things straight and get things together, and now it's like an official business. And the final question is just, what are the pros and cons of being a traveling hairstylist in comparison to being a regular hairstylist? Not that being a traveling means you're not a regular stylist, but you know what I mean. So I guess I'll start with the cons. And for me, I don't want to say the worst thing, I guess the toughest thing to deal with as a traveling hairstylist is that when you get to your location, you have to deal with what you're given. So obviously you're going to people's houses, so you can't really pick and choose the space you're going to be working in, and you can't get upset about it. Like, I don't like to complain about this, but not everyone has a hydraulic chair that you can pump up and down and rotate your clients. Not everybody has a big surface space for you to set up at your station. Not everyone has the best lighting. Most times you go to people's houses and the situation is just not ideal for doing hair, but it's a house, so you know, what do you expect? You know what I mean? Sometimes I go to places and some people, they only have tall chairs in their house, like the bar stool height chairs, which is very uncomfortable because I have to keep my arms up in the air as I'm working on them, but you can't complain because you're in their house. Some people, they don't have comfortable floors. You know, like, this is a small thing, but it's a big thing to me just because I have problems with my back and my ankles, and I stand for hours when I do braids, and sometimes I'm in someone's house and they have hardwood floors, and they don't want you to wear shoes in your house, which is completely understandable, but when you're not wearing shoes, you have no support. So after hours of working in someone's living room, my back and my feet and my knees are killing me, but it's kind of what you sign up for because it's someone's house. It's not meant to be a salon. Sometimes they don't have the outlet space you need. Sometimes they have pets that get in your things, or there's kids running everywhere. So long story short, when you're in someone's house, the situation isn't always ideal for doing hair, but you can't expect it to be because you're not in a salon, you're in somebody's house. So you sign up for that. So you can't complain about it, but it's just something to look out for or to keep in mind if you're thinking about doing this as your own business. And for pros, the best thing about being a traveling hairstylist, which just goes along with being like your own business person basically, is just that you're your own boss. You can set your own hours. You can say when you want to work, when you don't want to work. You can, you know, like, everything is up to you. So if I know that I don't feel like working or I haven't had a day off in a while, I'll just be like, you know what, I'm not going to book anything on Tuesday. I'm just going to sleep in that day. Like, I can just do that. I have nobody to answer to. And, you know, I just tell my clients I'm not available that day. They don't need to know why. I just need a break. Everyone takes days off. You know what I mean? So honestly, that's just the best thing about being a hairstylist in general. In most cases, you are your own boss. So all in all, I love being a traveling hairstylist, but to be completely honest with you guys, I don't plan on doing it forever, and I don't really plan on doing it for much longer. I'm hoping by the next year or two, I'll have my own actual standing business, but we're going to speak that into existence and work on that as time goes on. But as for now, I love doing what I do, and I definitely suggest it if you take everything that I say into consideration and consider all the pros and cons. So yeah, if you're looking into doing that, I wish you all the best of luck, and I hope this video was helpful to somebody. But yeah, so that's it for this video. So I hope that whoever came across this video found it helpful and interesting and entertaining at the very least. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any more questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll answer you there. And if I get enough questions, I'll do a part 2 to this video as well. So thanks again for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye!